The last stand of humanity. Captain Alex Volkov's hands trembled as he gripped the ancient combat interface of his Earth dreadnought. The ship, a relic from a bygone era, was far from the sleek, modern vessels that made up the rest of the fleet. Today was not supposed to be like this. He had planned to relax in his bunk, enjoying a bottle of synthetic alcohol after another routine patrol. But now, the universe had thrown him into the heart of a crisis. A message from a remote outpost replayed in his mind, sending shivers down his spine. Enormous alien fleet dwarfs anything we've seen, heading for Earth. The message had come through garbled and frantic, but the message was clear. A threat of unprecedented scale was on its way. The once comforting hum of the Dreadnought's engines now felt like a foreboding omen. The alien armada, a fleet of ships larger and more terrifying than anything humanity had ever encountered, was approaching Earth. The stakes were higher than ever. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. Men, our duty is clear. Volkov's voice was firm, cutting through the tension. We hold the line and draw blood, or our families burn. The communication console crackled to life. On the screen, the image of the approaching alien fleet loomed large. Volkov's heart pounded as he accepted the transmission. Admiral Mick Zhukov's face appeared, stern and unyielding. Even through the screen, the weight of his presence was palpable. "I'll be direct," Zhukov's voice was gravely serious. "The fleet you see belongs to the Zorian Empire. Intel suggests they've conquered half the damn galaxy." Volkov's blood ran cold. He had heard whispers of the Zorians, ruthless aliens with technology centuries ahead of Earth's. "Are they here to conquer us too, sir?" "Undoubtedly," Zhukov's jaw clenched. "Reports say they've never lost a battle. Their ships are, some say, invincible." A chill ran down Volkov's spine. The Dreadnoughts, the most powerful ships ever built by human hands, had been a myth whispered about in the darkest corners of spaceports. And now, they were humanity's last hope. Zhukov continued, "Your mission, Captain, is to retrieve these Dreadnoughts from their hidden location and bring them to the front lines. Use them to hold back the Zorians' advance." Volkov swallowed hard. It was a suicide mission, but what choice did they have? "Understood, Admiral. We'll get it done." "See that you do," Zhukov's gaze bore into him. "The fate of Earth, of all humanity, rests on this." The screen went dark, leaving Volkov with the gravity of the situation. He took a deep breath, turning to his crew. They saw the fear and determination mirrored in his own eyes. "All right, people," he said, his voice steady despite the tempest in his heart. "Let's wake up some legends." As the ship dropped out of warp, the stars shifted from streaks to pinpricks of light. The view screen filled with the image of a desolate star system, its planets lifeless and its sun a dull red. Volkov checked the coordinates. This was it, the location Zhukov had given them. "Scan the system," Volkov ordered. "Look for anything that might be hiding those Dreadnoughts." His crew worked their consoles with tense concentration. Minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity. "Captain, I'm detecting something near the third planet. It's massive." Volkov leaned forward. On the screen, the view shifted, zooming in on the third planet. Nestled among the ruins of what must have once been great cities were the Dreadnoughts, massive, scarred, and bristling with weapons. "Take us in, helmsman," Volkov commanded. "Nice and easy." As they approached, Volkov couldn't help but feel awe and reverence. These ships, these titans of war, had been waiting here for centuries. Now, with the Zorian threat looming, their time had come. "Prepare boarding parties," Volkov ordered. "We need to get those ships operational as soon as possible." His words were cut off by a blaring alarm. "Captain, multiple contacts coming in fast." Volkov's blood ran cold. "Zorians confirmed, sir. It's a scouting party." On the screen, a dozen sleek, predatory ships sliced through space, their weapons glowing with deadly intent. They had been found. "Battle stations," Volkov roared, prepared to engage. The crew sprang into action, their hands flying over their consoles. The ship shuddered as its weapons powered up. The Zorian ships opened fire, beams of searing light slashing across the void. Volkov's ship shook as the shields absorbed the impact. "Return fire. Give them everything we've got," Volkov ordered. The ship's cannons thundered, sending bolts of plasma screaming towards the enemy. The Zorians scattered, their ships moving with impossible agility. On the planet below, the Dreadnoughts remained silent, their power still dormant. Volkov gritted his teeth. They had to bring those ships online. With the Zorians bearing down on them, time was running out. The tension in the control room was palpable as Captain Alex Volkov's ship, the Tempest, engaged in a desperate battle with the Zorian scouting party. Each second felt like an eternity as the crew worked frantically to keep their ship intact, while Volkov struggled to focus on their mission. The Dreadnoughts, their last hope, lay hidden on the desolate planet below. They had to reach them before it was too late. The Zorian ships, sleek and menacing, darted around the battlefield with terrifying speed. Their beams of energy seared through the vacuum of space, making it clear they were not here for a mere reconnaissance mission. Volkov's tactical officer, Lieutenant Kara Patel, called out over the din of the battle, "Captain, their shields are holding strong. We need to disable their ships before they can call for reinforcements." Volkov nodded, his eyes never leaving the view screen. "Focus on their command ship. If we can take that out, we might be able to scatter the rest." The Tempest's cannons roared, unleashing a volley of plasma bolts aimed at the Zorian command ship. The enemy vessel shuddered under the assault, its shields flickering as the energy beams pounded against them. Volkov's heart raced with every hit, praying their efforts would be enough to buy them time. "Captain, the Zorian ships are retreating," Patel shouted. "They're pulling back to regroup." "Good," Volkov said, trying to catch his breath. "But don't let up. We need to finish this quickly." As the Zorian ships withdrew, the Tempest crew began to assess the damage. The ship had taken a beating, but the worst was yet to come. They had a critical mission ahead, and time was running short. "Helmsman, set a course for the third planet," Volkov ordered. "We need to get to those Dreadnoughts and get them operational. We can't afford any more delays." The ship's engines roared to life, propelling them towards the desolate world where the ancient Dreadnoughts awaited. The planets and stars outside seemed to blur as the Tempest accelerated through the void. As they approached the third planet, the crew's nerves were on edge. Volkov stared at the view screen, watching as the barren world grew larger. The once great cities now lay in ruins, remnants of a civilization long gone. The Dreadnoughts, enormous and silent, were nestled among these ruins like ancient titans waiting to be awakened. "Prepare for atmospheric entry," Volkov commanded. "We need to land as close to the Dreadnoughts as possible." The Tempest descended through the planet's atmosphere, its landing gear extending with a metallic hiss. The ship touched down with a shudder, kicking up dust and debris as it settled onto the planet's surface. "Boarding parties, move out," Volkov ordered. "Secure the area and begin the activation sequence for the Dreadnoughts." The crew disembarked, stepping onto the lifeless planet with a mix of awe and trepidation. Volkov led the way, his footsteps echoing in the desolate silence. They reached the first Dreadnought, its massive hull scarred and weathered by centuries of neglect. "Here we are," Volkov said, taking a deep breath. "Let's get these giants up and running." The team began the intricate process of reactivating the ancient systems of the Dreadnought. Engineers and technicians worked quickly, their hands moving deftly over control panels and interfaces. The Dreadnought's systems hummed to life, a low, resonant sound that grew steadily louder. "Captain, we've got power," one of the engineers called out. "The Dreadnought is coming online." Volkov felt a surge of relief as the colossal vessel began to awaken. The Dreadnought's weapon systems and engines were coming back to life, their ancient might slowly being restored. "We're not out of the woods yet," Volkov reminded his crew. "The Zorians will be back, and we need to be ready." As the crew worked to bring the remaining dreadnoughts online, Volkov took a moment to survey the scene. The sight of these ancient warships, once thought to be relics of a bygone era, now reawakening to defend humanity, filled him with a sense of awe and determination. "Captain, the last dreadnought is coming online," Patel reported. "We're ready for deployment." "Good," Volkov said. "Prepare for launch. We need to get these ships into position before the Zorians regroup." The dreadnoughts, now fully operational, stood as a formidable line of defense. Their immense power and ancient technology would be humanity's last hope against the Zorian Empire's onslaught. As the crew of the Tempest boarded their vessel once more, Volkov's mind was focused on the battle to come. They had successfully awakened the dreadnoughts, but the real fight was just beginning. The Zorian fleet would soon be back, and humanity's fate would be decided in the crucible of battle. The awakening of Titans. The atmosphere in the control room of the Tempest was tense with anticipation as Captain Alex Volkov's ship prepared to deploy the reawakened dreadnoughts. The ancient warships, once the pride of humanity's naval might, were now coming online one by one, their dormant systems slowly coming to life. The crew worked diligently, their faces illuminated by the glow of control panels and readouts. "Captain, all dreadnoughts are fully operational," Lieutenant Patel announced. "They're ready for deployment." "Excellent," Volkov replied, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "Let's get them into position." The colossal dreadnoughts, their massive forms now alive with energy, began to rise from their resting places. Volkov watched with a mix of awe and determination as the ships lifted off, their powerful engines roaring to life. The once dormant giants were now an impressive display of humanity's ingenuity and strength, ready to face the Zorian threat. As the dreadnoughts took their positions in orbit around the planet, Volkov's gaze turned to the view screen. The Zorian fleet, though temporarily scattered, was regrouping, its ships maneuvering with precision and purpose. The Zorians were a formidable enemy, their technology far surpassing that of any human vessel. But with the dreadnoughts now operational, humanity had a fighting chance. "Captain, we're picking up Zorian communications," Patel reported. "They're coordinating a massive offensive." "Prepare for battle," Volkov ordered. "We need to be ready for whatever they throw at us." The dreadnoughts, with their formidable weaponry and advanced systems, were humanity's strongest line of defense. Each ship was equipped with weapons capable of devastating entire fleets, and their armor was designed to withstand the most powerful attacks. Volkov knew that the upcoming battle would test the limits of their capabilities, but he was confident in the strength and resolve of his crew and their ships. "Captain, incoming Zorian fleet detected," Patel announced. "They're approaching fast." Volkov's eyes narrowed as he studied the view screen. The Zorian fleet was advancing in a tight formation, their ships moving with a deadly grace. The sheer scale of their armada was intimidating, but Volkov steeled himself. This was their moment to turn the tide. "All dreadnoughts engage the enemy," Volkov commanded. "Focus on their command ships. We need to disrupt their coordination." The dreadnoughts sprang into action, their massive weapon systems firing with a thunderous roar. Bolts of plasma and energy beams streaked through space, striking the Zorian ships with devastating force. The enemy fleet, caught off guard by the sudden assault, began to falter as their ships took heavy damage. "Captain, their shields are failing," Patel shouted. "We're making a significant impact." Volkov nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Keep the pressure on them. We can't let up now." The battle raged on, with the dreadnoughts proving to be a formidable force against the Zorian fleet. The massive warships, though old, were still incredibly powerful, and their advanced weaponry was causing havoc among the Zorian ranks. The once terrifying enemy fleet was now struggling to cope with the ferocity of the human counterattack. "Captain, we're getting reports of enemy casualties," Patel said. "The Zorians are retreating." "Good," Volkov said, his voice resolute. "But we can't afford to be complacent. They'll regroup and come back with a vengeance." As the Zorian fleet retreated, Volkov took a moment to assess the damage. The battle had been fierce, but the Dreadnoughts had held their ground. Humanity had managed to push back the Zorian assault, but the war was far from over. The Zorians were a relentless enemy, and they would not be easily defeated. "Captain, we've sustained some damage," Pato reported. "We'll need to make repairs before the next engagement." "Understood," Volkov replied. "Prioritize the repairs and ensure that all systems are operational. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." The crew of the Tempest worked quickly to repair the damage, their efforts a testament to their skill and determination. The Dreadnoughts, now proven in battle, stood as a symbol of humanity's resilience and strength. They were the last line of defense against the Zorian Empire, and their presence was a beacon of hope in the darkness of war. As the crew prepared for the next phase of the conflict, Volkov couldn't help but reflect on the gravity of their situation. The Zorian threat was real and formidable, but humanity had proven that it was capable of great things when pushed to the limit. The Dreadnoughts, once thought to be relics of a bygone era, had been reawakened to defend the future of the human race. "Prepare for the next engagement," Volkov said, his voice filled with determination. "We've made it this far, and we're not going to stop now." The crew of the Tempest readied themselves for the challenges ahead, their resolve unshaken. The battle for humanity's survival was far from over, but with the Dreadnoughts on their side, they were ready to face whatever came their way. The Empire strikes back. The lull in combat was brief. The Zorian Empire, having regrouped and analyzed their recent defeat, was preparing for a counterattack with renewed fury. Captain Alex Volkov and his crew aboard the Tempest knew that the Zorian Empire would not take their setback lightly. They had pushed the Zorians back, but the real test was yet to come. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Zorian command," Lieutenant Patel reported, her voice tight with tension. "They're demanding our surrender." Volkov's eyes narrowed. "Let's hear it." The screen flickered to life, revealing a stern-faced Zorian admiral. His voice was cold and commanding, a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded moments before. "Humans, you have proven yourselves to be a thorn in our side. Surrender now, and we may spare your planet. Continue to resist, and we will show no mercy." Volkov's response was immediate and firm. "We will never surrender. We fight for our survival and our future." The Zorian admiral's expression remained unchanged. "Then prepare for the consequences." The transmission ended, leaving an uneasy silence in the control room. The crew exchanged worried glances, knowing that the Zorians were not idle threats. Their next move would be decisive, and the stakes were higher than ever. "Captain, the Zorians are mobilizing a massive fleet," Patel said. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." "Reinforce our defenses," Volkov commanded. "We need to be ready for the worst." As the crew worked to bolster their ship's defenses, Volkov took a moment to reflect on their situation. The Zorian Empire was relentless, and their technological superiority was daunting. But the Dreadnoughts, with their immense power, were humanity's greatest asset. They had proven their worth in the last battle, and they would need to do so again. "Captain, we've got a problem," one of the engineers reported. "Our energy reserves are lower than expected. We need to manage our power more efficiently." "Understood," Volkov replied. "Adjust power allocation to prioritize weapons and shields. We need every advantage we can get." The crew worked swiftly, making the necessary adjustments to ensure that the Tempest and its allied Dreadnoughts were prepared for the impending assault. The Dreadnoughts, now fully integrated into the fleet, were a formidable force, but they would need to be used wisely to counter the Zorian threat. As the Zorian fleet approached, the tension aboard the Tempest was palpable. The massive armada, a dark cloud of ships, loomed ominously on the view screen. The Zorians were making a full-scale assault, and the battle would be fierce. "All ships, prepare for combat," Volkov ordered. Engage the enemy as soon as they're within range. The Dreadnoughts, their weapons primed and ready, began to align themselves for the upcoming battle. The sheer scale of the Zorian fleet was overwhelming, but Volkov's resolve remained unshaken. They had faced the Zorians before and survived. They would do so again. The battle commenced with a deafening roar as the Zorian ships unleashed a torrent of energy beams. The Dreadnoughts and the Tempest fired back, their powerful weapons tearing through the enemy fleet. The clash of energy and fire was intense, with the vacuum of space echoing the fury of the combat. "Captain, we're taking heavy fire," Patel reported, her voice strained. "The shields are holding, but we're being pushed back." "Hold the line," Volkov shouted. "We can't let them break through." The crew fought valiantly, their efforts focused on repelling the Zorian onslaught. The Dreadnoughts, though formidable, were not invincible, and the battle was taking its toll. Volkov's tactical mind raced as he analyzed the situation, searching for a way to turn the tide. "Captain, the Zorians are deploying a new weapon," Patel said. "It's some kind of energy disruptor. It's targeting our shields." "Divert power to shield regeneration," Volkov ordered. "We need to counter this new threat." The crew responded swiftly, adjusting their systems to combat the Zorians' new weapon. The battle raged on, each moment a test of their endurance and skill. The Zorian fleet, despite their technological advantage, was struggling to break through the combined might of the Dreadnoughts and the Tempest. As the battle reached its climax, Volkov could see the strain on his crew. They were pushing themselves to their limits, but their determination was unwavering. The Dreadnoughts, their weapons blazing, continued to hold the line, that ancient power proving to be a decisive factor in the conflict. "Captain, the Zorian fleet is retreating," Patel announced. "We've driven them back." Volkov exhaled deeply, relief washing over him. "Good work, everyone, but stay alert. They'll regroup and come back." The crew, exhausted but victorious, began the process of assessing and repairing their ships. The battle had been fierce, but humanity had once again proven its resilience. The Dreadnoughts, their ancient might restored, had played a crucial role in defending against the Zorian Empire's relentless assault. As the Tempest and the Dreadnoughts prepared for the next phase of the conflict, Volkov remained focused on their ultimate goal, securing humanity's future and ensuring that the Zorian threat would be permanently neutralized. The Zorian Gambit. In the aftermath of the intense battle, the crew of the Tempest found a moment's respite. The Zorian fleet had retreated, but the peace was fragile and likely to be short-lived. Captain Alex Volkov and his crew knew that the Zorians, though beaten back, would not abandon their mission easily. "Captain, we're picking up unusual activity on the outskirts of the system," Lieutenant Patel reported. "It looks like the Zorians are regrouping." Volkov's eyes narrowed as he studied the data. "What's their status?" "It appears they're preparing something large," Patel continued. "We're not sure what it is, but it could be a new weapon or a reinforcements fleet." Volkov's mind raced. The Zorians were not known for their subtlety. If they were regrouping, it was likely to launch a major offensive. "We need to be ready. Increase our sensor scans and put the fleet on high alert." The crew worked tirelessly to prepare for the next phase of the battle. The Dreadnoughts, having proven their worth, were now fully integrated into the fleet's strategy. Their ancient weaponry and armor were humanity's strongest defense, but their power came with the burden of maintaining complex systems that required constant attention. As the hours passed, the Tempest and its allied Dreadnoughts remained on high alert. The Zorian fleet, having regrouped and rearmed, was now poised for a decisive strike. The anticipation in the control room was palpable, each crew member aware of the stakes. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy signature approaching," Patel announced. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." Volkov's heart raced. "All ships, prepare for immediate combat. This could be the Zorians' final gambit." The view screen flickered, revealing a colossal Zorian battleship, its hull bristling with an array of ominous weaponry. The sheer scale of the vessel was awe-inspiring, and its presence sent a shiver through the crew. This was a new level of threat, one that demanded their utmost focus and skill. "Captain, it's launching smaller craft," Patel said. "They're deploying assault drones and strike fighters." "Deploy our own fighters and interceptors," Volkov ordered. "We need to keep those drones from overwhelming us." The crew sprang into action, launching a squadron of fighters and interceptors to engage the incoming Zorian drones. The space around the Tempest and its allies erupted into a chaotic dance of laser fire and explosions as the two forces clashed. The massive Zorian battleship, meanwhile, began charging its primary weapon, a massive energy cannon capable of devastating entire fleets. The Dreadnoughts and the Tempest focused their fire on the battleship, their powerful weapons tearing into its hull. "Captain, their primary weapon is almost charged," Patel warned. "We need to disable it before it fires." "Concentrate all fire on that cannon," Volkov commanded. "We can't let them use it." The Dreadnought's weapons unleashed a relentless barrage of fire, targeting the Zorian battleship's primary weapon. The energy beams and plasma bolts struck the cannon, causing it to flare and sputter as its systems were overloaded. "Direct hit," Patel reported. "The cannon's been disabled." The Zorian battleship, now unable to use its most powerful weapon, retaliated with a fierce counterattack. The smaller Zorian craft continued their assault, but the combined might of the Dreadnoughts and the Tempest was proving too much for them. "Captain, the Zorian battleship is taking heavy damage," Patel said. "They're preparing to retreat." "Push the attack," Volkov ordered. "We need to ensure they can't regroup." The Dreadnoughts and the Tempest pressed their advantage, their weapons pounding the Zorian battleship. The massive vessel, battered and crippled, began to pull back, its once imposing form now a battered shell of its former self. As the Zorian battleship retreated, the remaining Zorian forces also began to withdraw. The battle, though intense, had been a significant victory for humanity. The Dreadnoughts, with their ancient might and powerful weaponry, had once again proven their worth in the face of overwhelming odds. "Captain, the Zorians are retreating," Patel said, her voice filled with relief. "We've pushed them back." "Good work, everyone," Volkov said, his voice resolute. "But stay vigilant. This fight isn't over." The crew, though exhausted, took a moment to acknowledge their victory. The Zorians had been forced to retreat, but they would likely return, and the battle for humanity's survival was far from finished. The Dreadnoughts, now proven in combat, were a beacon of hope and strength. As the Tempest and its allied ships prepared for the next phase of the conflict, Volkov knew that the Zorians would not easily abandon their mission. The fight would continue, but with the Dreadnoughts on their side, humanity had a fighting chance. The Alliance's gambit. The respite following the Zorian retreat was brief. Captain Alex Volkov and his crew knew that the conflict was far from over. The Zorian Empire was formidable, and their defeat would only spur them to regroup and strike back with even greater force. Volkov's thoughts were interrupted by the comms console buzzing with a new transmission. "Captain, we're receiving a message from the Alliance Council," Lieutenant Patel announced. "It's a high-priority communique." Volkov nodded. "Put it through." The view screen lit up with the image of General Mara Tolan, a respected leader within the Interstellar Alliance. Her face was etched with concern, but also determination. "Captain Volkov, it's good to see you. We've been following your battle against the Zorians closely." "General Tolan," Volkov replied. "What can I do for you?" Tolan's expression grew serious. "We've received intelligence indicating that the Zorians are planning a large-scale offensive. They're preparing a new weapon, one that could turn the tide of the war in their favor. We need to act quickly." "What's the plan?" Volkov asked. "We've managed to intercept some data on the Zorian weapon," Tolan explained. "It's an energy destabilizer designed to collapse entire star systems. If they deploy it, It could obliterate entire planets. Volkov's jaw tightened. That can't happen. What do you need from us? We need you to lead a coordinated strike against the Zorian command center where the weapon is being assembled, Tolan said. Our forces will support you, but you'll need to breach their defenses and disable the weapon before it's operational. Volkov nodded, determination in his eyes. Understood. We'll take it from here. The transmission ended and Volkov turned to his crew. We've got hard orders. We need to prepare for a full-scale assault on the Zorian command center. The crew of the Tempest sprang into action, their focus sharpening as they prepare for the upcoming mission. The Dreadnoughts, their power fully harnessed, were now ready for a coordinated strike against the Zorian Empire's heart. As they approached the Zorian command center, the atmosphere was tense. The command center, a massive space station orbiting a distant star, was heavily fortified and surrounded by a fleet of Zorian warships. The Zorian defenses were formidable, but Volkov and his team had a plan. Captain, we've got Zorian ships on our sensors, Patel reported. They're forming a defensive perimeter around the command center. Deploy our strike forces, Volkov ordered. We need to create a diversion to draw their attention away from the main assault. The Tempest and the Dreadnoughts launched their attack, targeting the Zorian defensive fleet with precision strikes. The space around the command center erupted in a blaze of energy and fire as the two sides clashed. The Zorian ships, though powerful, were being overwhelmed by the combined might of humanity's forces. Captain, the diversion is working, Patel said. We're breaching the outer defenses. Maintain pressure, Volkov commanded. We need to push through to the command center. As the Tempest and the Dreadnoughts pressed their assault, the command center's defenses began to falter. The Zorian forces, though initially caught off guard, were regrouping and attempting to mount a counterattack. Captain, we're detecting heavy energy signatures from the command center, Patel warned. The weapon is powering up. Get us inside, Volkov ordered. We need to disable that weapon before it's too late. The Tempest and its allies maneuvered through the debris field surrounding the command center, their advanced systems allowing them to navigate the chaos. The crew's focus was unyielding as they closed in on their target. Captain, we've reached the command center's docking base, Patel said, preparing for boarding operations. Deploy the boarding parties, Volkov instructed. We need to secure the control center and disable the weapon. The boarding parties, equipped with advanced combat gear, began their assault on the command center. They fought their way through the Zorian defenses, their determination unwavering. The Zorians, though skilled, were struggling to repel the well-coordinated human assault. Captain, we're inside the control center, one of the lead operatives reported. The weapon is located in the central chamber. Proceed with the disablement, Volkov ordered. We don't have much time. The operatives worked swiftly, bypassing Zorian security systems and accessing the weapon's control interface. Their efforts were met with fierce resistance from the Zorian defenders, but they pressed on with unrelenting determination. Captain, the weapon's systems are being overloaded, the lead operative reported. We've succeeded in disabling it. Excellent work, Volkov said. Get out of there and rendezvous with the Tempest. The boarding parties withdrew, their mission accomplished. The Zorian command center, now deprived of its most powerful weapon, was left vulnerable. The remaining Zorian forces, realizing the gravity of their situation, began to retreat. Captain, the Zorian forces are pulling back, Patel reported. We've achieved our objective. Volkov took a moment to absorb the news. The successful strike against the Zorian command center had dealt a significant blow to the enemy's plans. The weapon was disabled, and the immediate threat had been neutralized. Good work, everyone, Volkov said. But remain alert. The Zorians will regroup, and we need to be ready. As the crew of the Tempest celebrated their victory, they knew that the war was far from over. The Zorian Empire would not easily surrender, and the fight for humanity's survival would continue. But with the recent successes and the Dreadnoughts' formidable power, there was hope for a brighter future. The final stand. The victory at the Zorian Command Center had provided a much-needed boost to the morale of humanity's forces, but the respite was brief. The Zorian Empire, though temporarily thwarted, was regrouping for a final decisive push. The scale of the threat remained daunting, and Captain Alex Volkov and his crew prepared for what might be the ultimate confrontation. "Captain, we've detected a massive Zorian fleet mobilizing at the edge of the system," Lieutenant Peto reported. "They're preparing for a large-scale offensive." Volkov's jaw tightened as he reviewed the data. The Zorian fleet was enormous, dwarfing anything humanity had faced before. This was clearly their last gambit, and the stakes could not be higher. "Get the fleet in formation," Volkov ordered. "We need to defend Earth and our remaining allies. This will be our final stand." The Tempest and its allied Dreadnoughts formed a defensive line, their powerful weapons ready to face the overwhelming Zorian onslaught. The ships bristled with energy, their systems primed for the impending battle. The crew moved with purpose, their faces etched with determination. "Captain, the Zorian fleet is advancing," Patel announced. "They're deploying their forces in a broad attack formation." "Brace for impact," Volkov commanded. "Prepare to engage." The view screen displayed the approaching Zorian fleet, a vast array of warships and support vessels. The Zorians had brought their full strength to bear, and the scale of the conflict was almost beyond comprehension. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. "Deploy our fighters and interceptors," Volkov ordered. "We need to hold their smaller craft at bay." The Tempest and its allies unleashed a torrent of fighters and interceptors, their smaller vessels darting through the chaos to engage the Zorian attack craft. The space around the fleet erupted into a maelstrom of energy and fire, the two sides clashing in a furious battle. The Dreadnoughts, with their ancient weapons and formidable defenses, took the brunt of the Zorian assault. Their powerful cannons roared as they unleashed devastating fire upon the enemy fleet. The Zorian ships, though advanced, were finding it increasingly difficult to cope with the relentless assault. "Captain, the Zorians are targeting our weak points," Peto reported. "They're focusing on our flanks." "Adjust our defenses and redirect fire to their main fleet," Volkov instructed. "We need to hold our position." The battle raged on, the vast expanse of space becoming a chaotic battlefield. The Zorians, though powerful, were struggling against the combined might of humanity's forces. The Dreadnoughts' weaponry and the Tempest's firepower were proving to be a significant obstacle. "Captain, the Zorian flagship is advancing," Patel warned. "It looks like they're planning to deliver a decisive blow." "Target the flagship with all available firepower," Volkov ordered. "We need to neutralize their command ship." The Tempest and the Dreadnoughts focused their fire on the Zorian flagship, their weapons delivering a relentless barrage of energy and plasma. The flagship, though heavily armored, was beginning to show signs of damage. The Zorian forces, realizing the threat to their command ship, redoubled their efforts to defend it. "Captain, we've managed to breach the flagship's outer defenses," Patel reported. "We're getting readings on their internal systems." "Prepare a boarding party," Volkov instructed. "We need to take out their command center." The boarding party, equipped with the latest technology, was deployed to the Zorian flagship. They fought their way through the ship's corridors, facing fierce resistance from the Zorian defenders. The battle within the flagship was intense, each step forward met with determined opposition. "Captain, we're nearing the command center," one of the operatives reported. "We need to access their control systems." "Get those systems offline," Volkov ordered. "We can't let them launch any more attacks." The operatives worked swiftly, bypassing Zorian security and accessing the flagship's control systems. Their mission was critical: disable the flagship's command capabilities to prevent the Zorians from coordinating their remaining forces. "Captain, the flagship's control systems are compromised," the lead operative reported. "We've taken control of their systems." "Excellent work," Volkov said. "Get out of there and return to the Tempest." The boarding party withdrew, their mission a success. The Zorian flagship, now crippled and unable to effectively command its fleet, began to falter. The remaining Zorian forces, realizing their situation was dire, started to retreat. "Captain, the Zorian fleet is withdrawing," Patel reported. "They're pulling back." Volkov took a moment to survey the battlefield. The Zorian offensive had been repelled, but the cost had been significant. The Tempest and its allies had endured a fierce and grueling battle, but their resolve and bravery had carried them through. "Good work, everyone," Volkov said, his voice filled with pride. "We've defended Earth and our allies, but remember, the Zorians will regroup. We must remain vigilant." As the crew of the Tempest celebrated their hard-fought victory, they knew that the war was far from over. The Zorian Empire, though temporarily defeated, would undoubtedly return. But with the strength of the Dreadnoughts and the courage of humanity's forces, there was hope for a future where peace could prevail. The final stand had been a testament to humanity's resilience and determination. The battle had been fierce, but the resolve of those who fought for their home and their people had proven unbreakable.